One day a customer walked in and asked if we would sell the mix by itself. We found empty tequila bottles. We poured the pre-made mix because we had already batched it out, and we sold it. And then we thought, oh, how cool, how fun. Back then, we had opened a Shopify store. We sell our mole starters and a lot of our Oaxacan products online. People can buy our shop our pantry on ilovemolestar.com. And we decided, why don't we sell other things? We should sell michelada mix. And then my brother and I went on a trip up north. We may or may not have gotten a little stoned, and then started thinking of like, ooh, what else can we do? And then we both thought of this idea of building a michelada company, and here we are.
Yo, welcome to another episode of In a Minute with Evan Lovett, coming to you live from the heart of Los Angeles. And speaking of the heart of Los Angeles, I am here with Bricia Lopez, who runs the restaurant Guelaguetza, which, in my opinion, is the heart of Los Angeles in Koreatown, representing the Oaxacan community. I am on record prior to all this, prior to even knowing Bricia, saying that that's my favorite restaurant in Los Angeles. But aside from that, she is a chef, cookbook author. I Love Micheladas is her brand, showing LA, well, not showing LA, but sharing with LA a really delicious michelada. You can get those at Smorgasburg, by the way. But welcome to the studio, and thank you for coming.
Did we reschedule this interview like 3 times?
True story. But look, schedules come up. Honestly, the fires, like a lot. You were affected by the fires. It's something.
We were all affected by the fires.
Somebody told me that date is going to go down in history as an inflection point for Los Angeles, like before and after the fire. So, I mean, very significant. But we're not here necessarily, not yet at least, to talk about the fires. But before we get into anything, I got to thank my sponsor, Culver City Toyota. Best sponsor around, by the way, because they are the best car dealership around. You need a new or pre-owned Toyota, go to Culver City Toyota right there on Washington Boulevard. Talk to George, the sales manager. He will get you $500 in dealer cash off any new or pre-owned Toyota, Culver City Toyota. Now, Bricia Lopez, this is the question I always start with. Do you have an opinion on Culver City? Because that is a very polarizing place.
Why?
What's
going on? I love Culver City.
Have you tried to drive in Culver City?
I mean, have you tried driving anywhere in LA? What's the difference?
Touche.
Yeah, have you tried driving in Koreatown? Bro, come on now.
All right. Fair enough. Culver City, we love it.
I love Culver City.
Okay. All right. Bricia Lopez, what I want to start with, listen, Guelaguetza, and by the way, I used to call it Guelaguetza, which I'm sure you hear a lot, but it's Guelaguetza, right?
Guelaguetza, yes.
Tell me, I mean, that story is incredible about your parents, but before we even get to that, tell me what Guelaguetza means, what the name is, what it represents. Just the name first.
The name itself, the actual word.
Yeah.
It's spelled Guelaguetza. Yeah. That hence why, and the U's are silent. They have the 2 little dots on top. Right. I
think they call it an umlaut.
Sure.
In English, if I'm not mistaken.
Sure. Is Guelaguetza, and it's a word in Zapoteco, and it means reciprocity. It means to create community. It's to live within community. That's like really the essence of what Guelaguetza means. It's a long-standing tradition in Oaxaca just to live in this Guelaguetza community of sense, the spirit in this Guelaguetza spirit. It is also one of the biggest cultural festivals in Mexico. In Oaxaca, it's the Lunes del Cerro, that they're called, like translates to Mondays on the Hill. It's the 2 first Mondays of July. And it's really like a time where all the towns of Oaxaca, the 7 regions of Oaxaca, 8 regions of Oaxaca come together in the city center in a stadium called the Guelaguetza Stadium. Okay. And there's dancing involved. There's fruit being thrown into the air. There's really presentation of the culture of each of these regions. It's beautiful. I think it's like 3 hours long, but it's a week-long celebration in Oaxaca. It's the Guelaguetza time in Oaxaca. It's like, I would say the easiest way to describe Guelaguetza season in Oaxaca is Mardi Gras.
Wow. That's okay. So listen.
Or Carnaval.
And that's pretty incredible and something that has to be experienced, obviously. Mm-hmm. But going inside the restaurant, and this is, look, the core of why I feel that I asked you on. And obviously you have an interesting story, and we're going to get into the origin story and all that. But when you go in Guelaguetza, it really feels like, especially from somebody from the San Fernando Valley, a white guy from the San Fernando Valley, you know, it feels like, you know, you're transported like culturally, culinarily, all this, you know, chapulines is something that I don't think they serve on too many menus throughout Los Angeles. And even your mole, which by the way, world famous mole, which I believe came from your mom, right? Yes. Yeah, which is Monterrubio.
Yes.
What was her Maria Monterrubio. But like the flight of moles and everything, and it just feels very authentic, very cultural. You guys have the awesome decor and the great food. And what does it mean to kind of represent Guelaguetza? Like not just the Oaxacan culture, but as you were saying, like this cultural event that's so important in Oaxaca. And how is that like reflected in the restaurant?
You know, I think the best way to describe Guelaguetza as a restaurant, it's just a representation, a reflection of who I am and who my siblings are. The restaurant is not just mine. The restaurant is myself. I run it alongside my two siblings.
I was going to say, shout out Paulina and Fernando. For sure. Apologies.
It's so funny. My brother's a character of his own. And I remember when people would be like, oh, you know, he was Bricia's little brother. And now I'm Fernando's sister. So it's really funny. Everywhere I go, it's like, oh, Fernando's sister is here. It's like, hi, guys, at some point, I was my own person. He was my brother. Right. But he's a character. So my sister as well. We co-host a podcast together. And the three of us
What is it called? Hold on. It's called Mama's.
Super Mamas.
That's right.
If you're not a mom, don't listen, okay? It's only for moms.
Whoa, come on now. No discrimination here.
No,
come
really.
on.
No, actually, though.
Okay. Listen, if you're not a mom, do not listen. Okay, but actually, moms, tune in.
But moms definitely do. But yeah, we're business partners, the three of us. And it's just it's a reflection of who we are, right? And I guess to answer that question, who we are an immigrant family from Oaxaca that grew up in Los Angeles. So, you know, I think that because we're very specific, right? We, again, grew up in Oaxaca. When we moved here, my parents opened this restaurant. It became a cultural hub. I grew up around Oaxacan community my entire life. I danced folklorico. My dad actually produced Guelaguetza in Los Angeles, 20,000 people at the sports arena. Wow, he rented the sports arena and created his own Guelaguetza. The governor from Oaxaca came. He produced this whole. We danced on stage. So I felt like almost as if I never left Oaxaca, but at the same time I definitely did. And then hence was born, the LA girl part of me that, I'm 40 years old. I've lived in LA for 30 years. I lived in Oaxaca for 10. Yes, I was born in Oaxaca. My soul is Oaxacan. Everything about me is from Oaxaca, but I'm an LA girl.
Listen, I love all of that, especially because the Oaxacan community is so important in Los Angeles. At last official count, it was 150,000 Oaxacans in Los Angeles. The largest population of Oaxacans outside of Oaxaca.
Yes.
How does that affect you, like, as an immigrant coming into a community that already had kind of a built-in community, and when you were growing up? Well, actually, let's talk about your immigration story first. How did that take place? You say you came when you were 10. Tell me about that, because I know your dad was here previously, right? Like, and he was putting together, selling food and stuff like that before he opened the restaurant. I think since 1983, if I'm not mistaken.
No, 93.
Okay, well, that's when he came?
Yes.
Okay, so he just came right before. Gotcha.
Yes. So he came a year before we did. I said 6 months, I think.
With his sister?
No. His sister lived here in LA, and my father migrated in 93. And he just started selling food door to door, traveling, driving. He bought himself a little Toyota truck. I think he paid like $300 for it. Shout out to Toyota Culver City.
Yeah, there you go.
Because he might have bought in Toyota Culver City. Actually, we lived in Culver City for a bit when we moved here in LA. And, that's sort of where his journey started. Yeah. And then quickly realized that food was really his only, the thing that he felt the most approachable and easy thing to open up a shop. I think the culture of street vending in Oaxaca is just something that people do, because if you need to make money, you walk outside your house, you squeeze some oranges and sell orange juice outside. You make memelas outside. You figure it out. You sell food. Yeah. And he was a street vendor and then opened a restaurant. Within 9 months of moving to this country with no English, no education, no money, you know, and sometimes I like sit and I ponder, like, I think about opening a new restaurant. I'm like, my dad like literally went into a country without knowing the language, have any money. And within 9 months, not just opened a restaurant, but opened a restaurant that had a huge impact on the culture of LA. It's crazy.
Yeah. And again, that legacy, when I use the term culinary royalty, that is not an overstatement, because it's what Guelaguetza means to Los Angeles. And some say that might have been the first true Oaxacan restaurant in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty significant, especially with that strong culture and population that LA has. So when he first opened, or when did you come? But what was your story? Like, obviously your dad was here. And then, so how did that all work? Like, hey, you guys are coming to America, you're coming to LA.
Yeah.
Like,
So
what do you remember? Yeah.
Yeah. I was living in Oaxaca. I was living with my mom, my uncle, my 3 siblings. My dad was living in LA. And we had an idea that my dad was living in LA. Then we'd go visit him. We came to visit him once. We went to Disneyland. We had a great time. We loved that. My dad lived in LA and we got to go and, you know, we had passports.
Okay.
So we were able to travel, come back.
Did you have thoughts on LA at the time?
I loved everything. I loved LA. I loved American culture because you're kind of fed that as a child when you watch TV, you know, right?
Yes,
so I grew up.
Machine.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up watching Full House, obviously with, you know, dubbed.
Okay.
I grew up watching Saved by the Bell dubbed. So I had this idea of like the U.S. and America, and the Barbies. Yeah. I mean, come on, you know, the Barbies, everything. So I was excited. I mean, I went. You know, you come and you go to Disneyland, and you think that's going to be like every day we're going to go to Disneyland, and there was just, I mean, it was a whole other world here. I mean,
right. Where were you living at first when you came in?
We lived in my aunt had an apartment in Culver City. It was a 2-bedroom apartment.
Right off the bat there, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it was a 2-bedroom, 1 bathroom, and then we lived in 1 bedroom. So the 6 of us ended up living in one bedroom for some time there while we kind of adjusted. But I mean, I loved everything about it. When I tell you this, I don't think people understand. Like, my first experience the thing that I remember the most when I first came to LA was turning on the shower and having hot water. And that was like, what?
Yeah.
Because you'd have to turn on, like in Mexico, if I want to take a shower, a hot shower, we'd have to time it. We'd have a very specific amount of time. We'd have to turn the boiler on, wait for the water to heat up. And we only had, I don't know, a very short time for the water to be hot before you didn't have hot water anymore.
I remember that experience. I've gone down to Huanusco, Zacatecas, which is where my wife's family's from, right? We all stay in like her abuela's house. And, you know, when we're down there, it's like 10, 12 people, but there's not enough hot water for the 10 to 12 people. So you want to be one of the first ones to like get in there in the whole process. But yeah, go on. Yeah.
So, you know, as a 10-year-old, that blew my mind.
Right.
Like, what? There's just... Oh, and there was a bathtub. You know how apartments in LA have bathtubs?
Yeah.
But I was the first time I ever saw a bathtub in my life.
Wow.
So it was pretty cool. I mean, I loved.
So that was one of the early memories. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, at the time, do you remember your dad working? What was your mom's role? How were you guys? I mean, he was in the restaurant like quick. By the time you came, did he have the restaurant already open?
Yes.
That's amazing. I mean, that's one of the most notoriously difficult businesses, period. Anytime, no matter what resources you have, no matter who you are, where you're coming from. And within 9 months of immigrating, he had the restaurant. And it was in a different location back then, right? It was in Koreatown, but it was like, what, 8th?
It was on 8th Street.
Okay.
It was on 8th Street.
Okay.
So we opened that location. He opened that location. We moved here. And that's when we started working, really. My life changed completely. I mean, I was living in Oaxaca with, I said, my siblings, my mom, my dad had left. But we had a very nice, beautiful life. My mom would cook every single day. She made me home cooked meals. She'd make me agua fresca all the time. I'd walk to school. I'd walk from school. I lived in a great street with many friends. We'd play out on the street until night. Everybody was beautiful. It was beautiful. Growing up in Oaxaca was one of the most. On the weekends, we'd go to Tlacolula. We'd go visit my grandma in Mitla.
What was the name of your town, by the way?
Mitla.
Okay. Was it a culture shock?
I mean, you take a little girl from Oaxaca and then you put her in, you know, Palisades Elementary. Culture shock. Absolutely, yes.
But you're old enough to realize that at the time that you're just like, everything's different.
I didn't know how to speak English. I mean, you're just little girl from Oaxaca, and then all of a sudden you were going to school in one of the most beautiful schools that there is.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Or that there was.
There was, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. R.I.P. Man. Okay. So growing up, what was your acclimation? How involved were you with the restaurant? What's the age difference with your siblings?
So we're 3 years apart. Paulina is older than me, than my brother. Although my brother and I always say we're twins. And then our youngest sister, who's not involved in the business, she's 5 years.
Okay.
So yeah, there's 4 of us. It was really fun. I love being part of a big family. We are very close. We're each other's best friends. We work together. Again, my brother, my sister, and I were business partners in all the different endeavors that we have.
Yeah.
And it's just really, man, it's really fun working with my family, man. I love it.
But from the beginning, were you working, like, again, as a kid, I know child labor laws and all that stuff, but were you involved at the restaurant?
Yeah. So you're an immigrant family, you know, growing up in the restaurant business. Of course, I did everything. You grew up in the restaurant. You actually grew up. Now, you go there every day.
Telling the truth, did you like it when you were a kid? When you were young?
No, I hated the restaurant. I hated the restaurant during high school mostly because I hated it and loved it. I hated it because I think through middle school and high school, I didn't do any curricular activities because I couldn't go to any parties. My parents were super strict with me. So for me, I just felt like it was this jail, but at the same time, it was where I went to have fun. It was a place where I got to meet people. Yeah. I made a lot of cash, man. I was a waitress. It was cool. It was just, I learned a lot. It was like my second family.
And what did your parents do, or did they, or how did you embrace this culture so strongly? And like, obviously, yes, that's your roots and you come from it. But what was it in that phase, your developmental phase, that you're like, yo, this is something to cherish and this is something that I celebrate? Or when did that connection kind of be made with you?
I've never not had it, so I don't know.
So it was always there from the beginning. So you're always like proud, the Oaxacan culture and history. Okay, so take us through the restaurant when in the beginning era, right? I know it was a struggle. Any restaurant is tough. And I actually just saw your post from a few days ago, empty tables, days go by, not many people fill in the restaurant. And people were telling your dad to make burgers instead, or tacos and burritos, whatever. But he was loyal to his belief and what he knew would end up being a defining cuisine of Los Angeles. Do you remember any of the struggles? Do you remember the push through? And was there a breakthrough when like people just all of a sudden are like, wow, Oaxacan food or Guelaguetza is like a place,
I mean, I don't know if there's like any breakthrough per se. I mean, I know there's definitely moments in the story that, were definitely, there were huge strides, specifically the articles that were written by Jonathan Gold that were, they spoke highly of the restaurant and the taste, and it was new. Listen, before Guelaguetza opened, no one really knew what Oaxacan flavors truly were from the the flavors that my family brought anyway.
Right.
We really, and they were really unapologetic. My dad never, not just my dad, my family, I've never downplayed my food in any way or watered it down or tried to make it something it's not to appease someone else. It's always just been our food. And we still do it to this day. So I think because of that, I think that is also why it's lasted. I think why it remains, because it's just a reflection of who we are. And I think also, going back to what you were saying earlier, like about the restaurant and what it is, it's a representation of now, 3 kids like who were born in Oaxaca, who have really grew up with the sense of pride of the Oaxacan roots, but really became part of the LA tapestry.
Yes.
And I think because it's so unique and specific that unless you go and you see and you sit, it's hard to explain to people. To explain to people that we are in the middle of Koreatown and it's the house to one of the best, Mexican restaurants in the country, specifically Oaxacan restaurant, in a Korean building, it's just only a reflection of what Los Angeles is and what makes it so beautiful. And, for me, to be able to represent my culture, to be able to continue to shift the palates of Oaxaqueños in LA and really give the best that I can. And again, not water it down, not to appease anyone, but to just be a representation. I want this generation to be able to eat at the restaurant, go back to Oaxaca, time travel in between and say, wow, I feel like I'm there, that there isn't really a distinction. But their personalities are different, obviously, right? You're in LA, it's going to be a little different.
Right. And I think something important that you hit on that I always loved, and it's, again, representation of LA just in the fact that it's Oaxacan and a big community, and LA is a Mexican city, and all that stuff applies and is true. But it's in the very building where Hiduk Lee, like, founded modern Koreatown. Mm-hmm. And that's like, even just being in Koreatown is like, oh, that's such an LA thing, the Oaxaca restaurant. But no, this is like where modern Koreatown was founded. Yep. And it could, and look, LA is a city that bulldozes its history, and we don't always necessarily celebrate the past and stuff like that. And it could have turned into an office building, could have turned into a doctor. Who knows what it could have turned into. But it turned into a true landmark. And it was like the handoff, like the baton of two proud Los Angeles cultures. And I think that that's really neat. And what I sort of like smile when I'm outside Guelaguetza, find my little parking and walking up. I'm like, this is a cool little story just in itself. Is there any connection that you guys have necessarily with the Korean community because of that? Or is it just that history? I mean, I know that history is there, but is there a special little like wink, wink to the Korean culture or anything in that?
I love everything Korean culture. I mean, and it's interesting how, so Korean culture and Oaxacan culture are so similar in food as far as taste and flavors and build, and just, it's so similar. Culture, we have so many similarities with the tias, the grandmas, there's so much there. I have so many great Korean friends. My niece is obsessed with Korean culture. My son loves Korean pop. I'm gonna go watch Stray Kids in May. All right, I'm gonna go to the Stray Kids concert. We actually just collaborated with a Korean company called LA Soju. We're doing soju ladas ready to drink. Oh wow! We love. I mean, Koreatown is Koreatown is such a special place for us. We love Koreatown. I think when I think about the past owners of the building and who he was, right? Because he also, the owner of the building, well, the past owner, he also was the one who created the Koreatown Parade, right? And my dad created essentially the same thing for the Oaxacan community, right? And his, I think, and this was also a multi-generation restaurant, and it's just, the spirit of the place is so magical, it's so special, and I can only say I'm just blessed to have been chosen to be the family to keep going.
That's awesome. Okay, so you mentioned soju ladas, right? I'll find that out firsthand because that sounds interesting. But what I do want to talk about is I Love Micheladas.
Yes.
Now, look, the Michelada has become kind of the unofficial beverage of Los Angeles. I mean, Dodger Stadium now, you get them all around town. Tell me how I Love Micheladas developed. And that's a business. I was at, what's it called? The social, whatever it is in Canoga Park, Woodland Hills, whatever that is.
Topanga Social.
Topanga Social. There you go. And again, at Smorgasburg, like you have that presence. Tell me how that developed. Tell me about I Love Micheladas.
Yeah. I Love Micheladas is our ready-to-drink michelada mix that you can add to any beer to make yourself a delicious michelada. We have it in a couple of renditions. We have the OG brown, which is just like zero tomato. And then we have a red, which has just a little bit more of like the tomato LA michelada traditional vibe. The OG brown is a little more of the style that you find in Oaxaca. We have a ready-to-drink cup. We're actually in Total Wine in Bevmo. If you guys are looking for a michelada, want to try the product, please find us in Bevmo and Total Wine. How did it get started? It got started because we were always known to have delicious micheladas at the restaurant. I'm not going to say I've been drinking michelada all my life because I could not. After 21, when I turned 21, I began drinking micheladas, and since then I've loved them. And I am a big fan of micheladas. My family, we're just fans. We're fans.
Is it a Oaxacan thing?
Listen, it's a Mexican thing. I'm from Oaxaca. I'm calling it a Oaxacan thing. Sure.
Okay. Yours are Oaxacan.
Mine is a Oaxacan thing.
Okay.
In Oaxaca, there is this one place called La Giralda and another place called Salón de la Fama. They're two really iconic bars. Okay. They both have very just incredible, delicious michelada, which is really where the inspiration of the flavor comes from for our mix. One day, a customer walked in and asked if we would sell the mix by itself. we found empty tequila bottles. We poured the pre-made mix because we had already batched it out, and we sold it. And then we thought, oh, how cool, how fun. Back then, we had opened a Shopify store. We sell our mole starters and a lot of our Oaxacan products online. People can buy our shop our pantry on ilovemolestar.com. And we decided, why don't we sell other things? We should sell michelada mix. And then my brother and I went on a trip up north. We may or may not have gotten a little stoned, and then started thinking of like, ooh, what else can we do? And then we both thought of this idea of building a michelada company, and here we are.
That's a big deal, though.
Yeah.
It's not just like something...
We thought it would be easy. In their mind. And you know, looking back at that conversation, we were both really stoned. And like, I think we were about to have dinner. I think we were going to have dinner in San Francisco. I think we were about to eat, we went to eat at Mission Chinese, I think.
Yeah.
Or we were eating somewhere in San Francisco. I'm like, we totally like laid out the plan. And we're like, yeah, that should be easy. Sure. Whoa. 10 years later, we're still trying to figure it out.
Dude, but they are delicious. Honestly, not a joke. Smorgasburg, that's the first thing I do when I get in because it's right there next to the entrance. So literally delicious. But perhaps more importantly, or at least more germane to Oaxaca is mezcal. Right? Mm-hmm. And you've been called the queen of mezcal by New Yorker magazine. And listen,
so
by the way, let me say something. I love New York, truly, heart and soul. I like New York media, New York Times, New Yorker. Too. I don't like when New York media puts their stamp on LA and tries to give their LA expertise on everything. So I just want to get that on the record.
Are you trying to take away my title?
No,
because
not at all.
Is that what you're saying right now?
Not at all. But however...
Are you hating on my Mezcal Queen title from the New Yorker?
Okay. What do you see? This is the truth, right? So Guelaguetza has had a huge impact on the community, right? Like how do you and your siblings carry forward that legacy, and what does it mean, and what do you see in the future as far as that legacy? Yeah,
man. Right now, I think the entire industry collectively is just trying to survive. You know, I think I'm very worried about the restaurant industry. It's scary, man. It's really gruesome. I think right now we just focus on continuing to be great and continuing to, you know, show up for the community, for our team, and day by day, you know, things are changing so quickly in the city. Things are just so quickly and everywhere. You know, I don't know what dining will look like in the future. Wow. I think right now it looks a certain way. We're making it work, and that's what we can do. Honestly, all I can do is serve great food and give great service.
Right.
I can't do anything else other than that.
That's a good way to put it. Now talk about that restaurant business, because so many restaurant owners I talk to are struggling. My wife's family owns a small chain on the Inland Empire. Same thing, you know, costs are going up like crazy. People's behaviors changing, all this kind of stuff. I mean, you guys are really seeing that in the bottom line, obviously. But what are the big changes on the landscape besides, again, the costs and the cost of doing business in LA, honestly? Are you seeing people's behavior change? Like, what are the biggest challenges, I guess, that Guelaguetza faces on a daily basis? You
know, I think it's not just Guelaguetza. I think it's every small business in Los Angeles. I think every small business in Los Angeles is facing a lot of challenges from, I don't know, name one, all of them. You know, all of them. It's difficult, and it's okay to talk about it, I think, because I don't want people to feel that they're alone. I think everyone is struggling, and if someone's telling you they're not, I don't think they're telling the truth.
And you're pretty active with other restaurant owners, with business owners. You have groups. I know it was like
regarding her.
Okay, Reher. So tell me about that and what that meant, and tell me about that.
So 9 great women restaurateurs who got together and created a nonprofit in order to be a source of help to other women. And now it's grown into an incredible organization. We've given grants, and now really its purpose is to educate and bring resources to women-owned restaurants in order for them to grow their business as much as they can. So it's been really awesome working with great women and being able to make a difference in any way that we can.
Yeah, and especially it's more important now than ever because of the challenges we were talking about in the industry and just the restaurant landscape, or like you said, the business landscape. Even forget that. Just being alive in Los Angeles in 2025 is challenging. I mean, economically and otherwise. See, that guy agrees.
Yeah,
there you go. Shout out solidarity. Okay, I got to talk to you. A fact that I just learned today, you are dating a chef
Oh my God.
from New York.
I am.
A chef.
How did you just find out today?
From a Oaxacan restaurant.
Yes.
Well, I didn't put it together. That's the absolute truth. How did that come about? I hear there's a story there.
My story? You want to hear how I met my boyfriend?
Yes. TJ Steele, by the way.
Yes.
And what is the name of the Michelin-starred restaurant?
Claro.
There you go. In Brooklyn. Check that out when you go to New York.
Yeah.
Oaxacan restaurant.
Yes.
Right?
It's delicious.
Okay.
Delicious.
Tell me about how this relationship came about, because there's a funny story involved. I was promised this story, so you gotta deliver.
You were not promised a story.
I was.
We're just prying. Let's see. I met TJ at this restaurant. So I was in New York for a shoot.
Okay.
I was there for a shoot, and it was my last night there. And I was asking everyone at the shoot where I should go have dinner.
Okay.
And everyone told me that I should go to this restaurant. Okay. Everyone in the shoot, from the photographer to the person who was the food stylist to the prop stylist, everyone, the recipe developer, everyone said, you need to go try this food. And, you know, being me and having the beliefs I had at the moment, in my mind, I just thought, there's no way I came all the way to New York to have Oaxacan food from a man who is not from Oaxaca. No, thank you very much.
Okay.
I don't care of all these accolades. I don't care. It's New York. I'm gonna go eat pizza somewhere.
Yeah.
I got to my hotel room and I'm like, I guess Bricia, you should check it out. Like, don't be so close-minded. Like, you know, you can't be a hater. Or you can't be this person. Just you know, open your mind. Maybe you'll learn something. So I decided to go. I didn't have a reservation. I'm like, you can just go to bar. I just show up to bars all the time. I love sitting in the bars at any restaurant. So if I'm a 5:30 bars, like, you know, bar seater kind of person. So I show up and I sit there and I kind of look at the place around. I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool place, right? It's got personality. I'm like, all right. You know, I'm starting to get a little mad because I like the place, you know?
Mad at yourself.
Yeah. And I'm like, dang, this place is kind of cool. All right, whatever. And it had art from artists called Dr. Lacra, who's a very like prolific artist, a tattoo artist in Oaxaca, and whose dad, Francisco Toledo, was a really great friend of my family and my dad. So I was really intrigued because Toledo was just another exceptional like role model. And anyway, Toledo's a whole different story. So his son's art, it was in the restaurant. I was like, oh, cool, this is cool. And then I ordered some food and I looked from the corner of my eye and I saw the chef coming by. I'm like, I think that's him, but he looked very different because his pictures look very different than what he looked like. But I introduced myself, I said hi. And then he left, came back, and we sat down and I started having a delicious meal. And it was really great. And then I was like, dang, this is actually really good food.
Love it when you're disappointed in how good it is.
It was really good. Yeah. Just because I was just really specific flavors that aren't easily recreated unless you understand. It's just, I've had many Mexican restaurants, Oaxacan restaurants, where I know there's people in the kitchen who are from Oaxaca who cannot give those flavors. It doesn't matter. It's not about like where you are from. It's just like understanding the soul of food, I guess. Yeah. And then we sat down and we had a great conversation, and I started to understand that he really understood the food and knew of places and knew of ingredients and knew of things that not just anyone would know. Yeah. And almost as if we'd known each other forever. I mean, just like things that we both, I guess, simultaneously lived the same life in Oaxaca, him living there and me living there. It's just so many things but we never really met. Yeah. And then, you know, I guess that's kind of the beginning of the story. So.
Interesting. All right. Is there going to be any kind of cross-pollination or anything in the future?
There's lots of cross-pollination. Every day. I cross-pollinate a lot.
Really?
Yes, many times.
Okay. Any official like Claro pop-up at Guelaguetza or anything?
Yes, we actually launched a newsletter. We have a Substack, a call from Oaxaca.
There you go.
We release 5 recipes every month, and they're just recipes that we create together.
Dual authors? Like you guys both are?
Yeah, we're creating recipes.
Awesome. What's the name of the newsletter?
From Oaxaca. On Substack.
Yeah.
We brought the recipes to life at my restaurant.
Yeah. Speaking of writing, look, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about this and show this beautiful,
Yes,
beautiful
that's my first
book.
baby.
This was Bricia's first book, Oaxaca, Home Cooking from the Heart of Mexico, which is also co-authored featuring Javier Cabral from LA Taco, who is a good friend of the show and a great writer / journalist. How did this come about? And by the way, I'm getting my autograph on this copy, which I should have had a long time ago after the show. But how did this come about? And again, I just want to show, this is just beautiful photography. This is the restaurant. I know, look, you're from LA, you know Guelaguetza. But I mean, photography with stories, with recipes.
Yes.
It's gorgeous. It's awesome. Gloria, our operations manager friend, she asked, why was the book sticky? Because we keep it in our kitchen and we actually use it, right? So tell me how this came about, though, and what it felt like to be published and have your story memorialized in your recipes in your restaurant.
It's so funny because I think I just had that moment right now in this moment, right now, when you were looking through it. I'm like, dang, that's like my story right there for everyone to have.
Yes.
You know, I am a person who likes to stay very busy and who likes to keep moving. So sometimes I often forget it just takes some time and understand what just happened.
Yeah.
I think that book was published in 19, so this book will turn 6 years in in this fall. Okay. So it's about 5 years and change old. So it's crazy to see it. My son was 2 or 3 when we moved to Oaxaca. I moved to Oaxaca for about a month, me and him.
Okay.
And my mom's home. And we would cook every day. We'd go to the market. We'd have atole. My mom would cook. I would write.
But how did it even come about, honestly?
How did it come about? I met my agent, Jonah Strauss. He is my literary agent. He came to the restaurant one day and said, hey, I think your story's cool. I've read things that have been written about your family. I think like there could be a interest in your story if we turn it into a book.
Had you thought about that previously, by the way?
Sure.
Okay.
I've thought about many things. But I just didn't know like how it came to be. Yeah. And then I found out how, and then we did it.
Wow. Just like that. And then how did you hook up with Javier?
Javier is like my little brother. Javier and I have known each other for, I think, 20 years.
And for anybody that doesn't know, and if you're following me, you do at least know who Javier is. I mean, he is one of the premier voices culinarily and culturally in LA. And again, along with Memo Torres, like the heart and soul of LA Taco. And just, I believe he got his start as a blogger that turned into like a scout for Jonathan Gold. But like his writing is just fantastic because he understands that emotional connection and everything. Just really is an awesome representation of Los Angeles. But you guys hooked up because he's your little brother, if you will.
He's my little bro.
Yeah.
And what's up, little bro?
Did you ask? I mean, was it an ask? I'm just curious.
No, I think, look, Javi and I speak our own language. We kind of, him and I are able to communicate without even speaking to one another, which is very hard for me to find that in someone. Sure. He actually can, a lot of the times, read my thoughts. And again, we've been friends for a long time. I mean, I know Javier since he was a teenage glutster. I mean, before everything. Javi and I have gone way back, and he's been my little brother forever. When it came to, he'd never written a cookbook before. I never written a cookbook. And I think I'm just a person who just really feels comfortable working with friends. So Jonah was, Jonah actually suggested a few other writers in this. And I just said, even if Javier's never done it and neither have I think he's cool. I think I'm cool.
And you're a good team and you need that chemistry.
Yes. And I've written tons. I love to write. I love to write.
Okay.
So some of those, I mean, I would sit down and I would write as well, and he would edit me, and he's been such a great writing coach as well. Yeah. Yeah.
No, he's awesome. He's incredible. And you guys did a second book, correct?
Yes, we did a second book, Asada.
And that was last year, or was that 2 years
That was 2 years ago. Yes.
So fast.
I know.
So obviously this was successful. That's another beautiful book.
Another one.
Tell me not the inspiration, because obviously it's in the title, Asada, but how did that come together? And Asada, right, if I'm understanding correctly, you're not just talking, carne asada. That's the entire book. Like the spirit behind it, like getting together, come to the asada, you know what I mean? Like all that kind of stuff. That's what it's about and what it represents. How did that book come about? Your agent was like, let's do another one. This was a wild success, or what happened there?
Well, after Oaxaca, it was birthing a book is a lot. So after Oaxaca, I just, kind of took a breather And then in 2020, sometimes I just wake up and I have these ideas. There's certain, like, if sometimes this idea will hit me, like it's a divine power, I always call it. And sometimes it just comes and it just feels right. I feel the idea enter and it just needs to manifest itself. And then when that happens, I move very fast. So the idea of Asada just came to me one day and I just saw the entire book. I saw the entire book from beginning to end. So then I just called Javi. Wow. I said, this is the book we're doing next. And he's like, have you talked to Jonah? I'm like, no, but that's the one we're doing. He's like, okay. I'm like, and this is what we're just going to say. And so I'm like, come over. So he came over and within a couple hours, we wrote the proposal and I sent it over to Jonah. This is what I want to do. And he's like, great. Yeah.
Okay.
I move really fast. Yeah.
What's your astrological sign, by the way?
What's my astrological? Yeah. I am a Libra Cancer.
Okay. I'm a Virgo, by the way. I always try to, I'm not, I think that astrology is a little bit, I mean, it's a little hokey, but there's certain things and certain qualities, and I was just wondering. But I gotta just talk to you some general LA questions too, okay? And don't be afraid, don't be shy to answer honestly. And I know there's some politics, not actual politics. You'll see what I mean involved. What are some of your favorite neighborhoods in Los Angeles? Where does Bricia Lopez like to hang out?
It's so different, right? So different. Where do I like to hang out? Like, where do I like to be?
Don't be like,
listen, I'm a mom. Listen, I'm a mom. So very different, okay? You're asking 25-year-old Bricia, very different than 40-year-old Bricia with two children, okay?
That's great. Give me both.
Well, I will say like 20s, like in my 20s.
Yes.
Because let me tell you how about this? I'll tell you everywhere I lived in LA.
Okay.
Ready for this?
Perfect. Absolutely.
Okay. So I lived in Culver City.
Okay.
I lived in Crenshaw.
Okay.
I've lived in Mid-City. I lived in Westchester by the airport.
Wow. Okay.
West Hollywood. Downey. Koreatown. Highland Park. Sierra Madre. Am I missing one?
Covering a lot of ground there geographically and
so
culturally.
I've lived everywhere.
Right.
Living in West Hollywood was fun at the time. Okay. At the moment, to be 20 years old and live like by the Sunset Strip was really like a vibe, and it was so fun. Living in K-Town was awesome. I got many parking tickets, too many. My car got booted. My car got towed once because I had too many parking tickets. Like, I went through that phase in LA, living in K-Town because you can't really park anywhere.
Right. I
loved living in Highland Park. I love that neighborhood. Highland Park it's so special. Highland Park is a special one. I love Mount Washington. I have a lot of friends that it's so beautiful there and so pretty, and it feels like you have a community. You feel like you have space. Honestly, I loved Altadena so much. I really love where I am right now, like in the area of Sierra Madre. I have children, so I'm ready. I love being like suburban sort of situation. I love neighborhood. I love kids. I love that the kids can go out and ride their bikes. And I think Culver City still has that. Cheviot Hills has that. Yeah. Cheviot Hills is beautiful. I mean, can't live there, but I would love to live there. Okay. Cheviot Hills is freaking incredible. That whole area. God, like the Hancock Park is.
Hancock Park.
Jeez, I live in Hancock Park. Where else would I live?
Somebody asked me the other day.
I'd live in Hancock.
If LA in a minute was worth $100 million, where would you live?
Yeah.
Right. And I was like, at my house. But like, they're like, if you had, I was like, listen. Hancock Park is probably the most beautiful, and yes, it's elite. But
Windsor Square, right there. I think it's called Windsor Square in Hancock Park.
But it still feels like a neighborhood somehow, even though it's like these massive, like mansion style. They're not even mansion style. They're just beautiful, big homes and big properties. But yet, it still also feels like a neighborhood, which is.
That's why I also love Culver City. I think Culver City is so. Culver City's got really like everything because you're in the middle of everything.
It does.
You can drive to downtown. You can drive to Highland Park. You can drive to the west side. You can drive anywhere.
Except it's tough to drive to Culver City. Is always my contention.
No, but it's not though. It's not. It's trust me. It's worse driving to other places. I'm a fan of Culver City.
That's fair. Okay, what do you think are some big misconceptions about Los Angeles?
Everything.
Ooh, that's a good answer.
I think
the narrative is terrible on LA.
Everything. I think everything's a misconception. People who think everything is great, it's a misconception. Right. Think everything's awful, a misconception. I think people who think, I just think, unless you like live here on the daily, like don't have an opinion.
Is there something that you feel is the biggest flaw, or what you would want to improve upon the most in Los Angeles?
Oh man, I think right now, man.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How about right now we just are a little more friendly to small businesses and have a little bit more empathy. People trying to provide. I think people need to be more empathetic of people who are actually producing livelihood for many other families, right? And we're trying to make it work so many other families can also have a job.
What an awesome answer, by the way.
It's hard being a small business owner these days.
Do you hear that, city council, decision makers?
No, but and not just city council. I think just in general, I think the population, right? I think there's a difference between like, I think the word business owner, like someone who's in business, right? So different levels, right? And sometimes people think like, oh, these big companies and corporations. And I think that often the little people get lost in there because, I don't know, there's lack of empathy for small business owners.
Yeah. And it is, again, I can't reaffirm how challenging it is and how expensive really it is to run a business in Los Angeles of any type.
In California, really, in this state.
Fair point.
Yeah.
Hear that, Governor Newsom? No, I'm just kidding. But, okay. Now let's close out with two things.
Okay.
One, name drop some of your favorite restaurants. And that being said, apologies in advance. I know she's going to forget people. Don't get mad at her. It's on the spot.
I'll tell you okay, how about this? How about the latest places that I've been to that I've eaten recently that have really impressed me in LA?
Yeah, let's go.
So wait, where did we go to that one restaurant? When we went and had tea next door. Remember we had tea next door?
Oh, I know.
Dunsmore? Is it Dunsmore? Because I feel like that was probably one of the last...
We're taking a TJ Steele interlude, by the way. He is actually in the house, by the way. And now he's obligated to share this with all his New York followers as well.
Oh, yes. Dunsmore.
Okay.
It's an Eagle Rock.
Yes. Okay.
They're doing things great there.
Okay.
I don't know the chef, but whoever you are, you're doing a great job. Great work, man. Keep doing it. You're inspiring me. Siesta, I just went to have dinner at Bar Siesta last night.
Okay.
And Silver Lake, that just opened, I think a couple months ago. She's killing it. Heather, who also owns Botanica.
Okay.
It was a great vibe. It was like Spanish tapas. I loved it.
Awesome.
Outside of that, I mean, I'm just gonna go with the OG favorites and everyone's LA darlings. I just, they're just. But if they're you know why? Because they do shit great. The last great place I went to, there's this place called Cafe what?
2001.
Okay, this is the best platform to actually give this a shout out.
All right.
Okay, Cafe 2001.
Yeah.
If you Google this place, you can't find it.
Okay.
If you look for it on the map, it says it's closed.
Okay.
It's weird because you're like, what is this place? You go there and everyone that's there is only people who know about food and who actually care about food, and you'll meet the craziest people there. The chef there's name is Giles. It's right next to Guerrilla Tacos across the street. There's a restaurant called Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Is right behind Yes. And the entrance is behind Yes. Again, if you Google it, you can't find it. I don't even think they have a site or an Instagram page.
Right.
But it's probably the coolest place in LA right now.
Cafe 2001, huh?
Yeah.
All right.
That's a super cool place. And then for my favorites, my all-time, I think just people that I respect in the industry who are doing things incredible well would be Ori and Genevieve, Bestia, Safis, and Bavel. I mean...
They change.
Listen.
They a huge impact in LA.
Listen, I think they're just doing things great, and I really respect when people do shit incredibly well, and they do it. So I respect them. Ludo is doing shit incredibly well.
Right.
I mean, I can royal LA, people. People who I admire as well.
Any other Mexican restaurants?
Oh, Mexican restaurants. Please, I think the best Mexican restaurant, aside from Guelaguetza, has to go to Chichen Itza and Holbox together.
Oh, wow.
I think Gilberto Cetina is doing
Really?
another person doing things incredibly well that I respect. Who else is doing things incredibly well? Well, obviously, John and Vinny's always doing things very well, always learning from them a lot. I learn a lot from them. Who else is doing shit tight in LA? Sonora Town.
Yeah.
She's opening in Long Beach already. She opened in Long Beach now.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
They're
Jen,
on the run.
shout out to her.
Great.
She is killing the game too. She's also doing shit incredibly well.
Too. Known for their
No, but let me tell you something.
Right.
One of the best things to order from them is a taco platter delivery when you have people over.
Really?
Clutch. Oh my God, it is delicious. We order a lot in my family. I am a heavy consumer of Sonora Town and Chichen Itza.
Okay, that is okay. Now segue back, and we'll end with this. So Guelaguetza, what do I order there? What do you eat there?
What do I eat there?
What do you eat there?
Let's see. I think my heavy hitters are Guelaguetza that I always eat. I always love a chile relleno, chicken and cheese. I have the best chile rellenos ever. No one has better chile rellenos than me.
Okay.
I always love Guelaguetza, always chorizo on top.
Yeah.
Can
you explain tlayuda real quick?
How to explain tlayuda?
Massive thing.
Tlayuda is a large corn tortilla, layer with different flavors, including like pork rind paste and beans and cheese and cabbage and meat, and it looks like a pizza, but not quite. It's like gluten-free.
Last time I was there, I don't know if you remember, when I actually did the Guelaguetza episode for the socials, I ordered, the mole, chapulines, just because I love getting some mezcal, and you actually were like, what? No,
Tlayuda.
And then you not made me order. You were like, you gotta get It's super incredible.
Taco de Baracoa is also bomb, fire, all the moles, everything.
Yeah, it is. And honestly, Guelaguetza is the real deal. There's a reason I have called it my favorite restaurant in Los Angeles for years. Before LA in a minute, before I knew Bricia.
Thank you.
Really is. It's the experience. It's the food. It's the culture. It's the fun. Mad props to the Oaxacan community for having such an impact in Los Angeles. And mad props to Bricia Lopez and Fernando and Paulina and the family and the legacy that you have instilled in Los Angeles. And I just want to say thank you.
Oh, thank you.
On behalf of LA for everything you've done and continue to do. And thank you for the delicious food.
Thank you. And everybody, please go out and eat. Come visit restaurant. Come visit Guelaguetza, please.
Support all the restaurants, but support Guelaguetza. And also, I Love Micheladas. Don't forget, especially if you go to Smokesburg. They're good people over there too. But Bricia, thank you for coming in. I really appreciate you. Anything else you want to say? Promote? Get the book. Make sure you get this on Amazon, wherever. Go to the bookstore. Actually, I'm a bookstore guy. There's Barnes & Noble down the street. Go to the bookstore. But get the Oaxaca, get Asada, get the cookbooks.
Get the books, go to the restaurant, subscribe to the newsletter. Follow, link in bio.
And the podcast, only if you're a mom. Wait, only if you're a mom, though, right? Super mamas, right?
Only if you're a mom.
Okay. Also, again, thank you. Much love. And follow, subscribe, like, share, but go out and eat, support small restaurants, small businesses, and support Guelaguetza, my favorite restaurant in Los Angeles. All right, y'all. It's been a minute.